more Emerald Eye, Emerald Empress, Superboy story. Superboy at the time being normal Superman, but back when he was a kid. And these heroes of the future come to... Hi, I'm Glenn Simpson, and I've collected comics for over 40 years, and I'm showing off my collection one box at a time. Today we're looking at box number 99. We're going to pick back up on the Legion of Superheroes. We're going to go through several 3-boot, 4-boot, whatever, and make our way through all kinds of Legion of Superheroes stuff, ending up with some Leonard Nimoy's Primortals, if that's something you've ever heard of. So it's going to be a good time. Glad you're here. Please like and comment and subscribe. But hey, let's get going with this video on Glenn Simpson's Comics. Alright, so we begin with what is basically Legion of Superheroes Volume 3. The first volume was actually just a couple of issues that were reprinted. They were reprints back in, I think, the 60s. And then the Volume 2 would be what Superboy turned into. And so this was Volume 3. And it was released only to comic book shops, and at the same time that this was running, they were running the Tales of the Legion series, and it was going to newsstands and all the normal places that comics were sold. And then after a year, Tales of the Legion started reprinting the stories that had come out here, so that the people who couldn't get to a comic book shop, which was kind of a new thing at the time, could read those stories. So really, and then the reprints went on in Tales of the Legion through issue 28, I believe. But when they got to this the reprint, what would have been the reprint of issue 18 here, which was the Crisis crossover tie-in, they just didn't reprint it because it's like it's been a while now. Nobody cares about this Crisis reprint, so I had to go back and get this issue to make sure I had that full, run of stories. So that is issue 18. But that's why the main part of my collection doesn't start until issue 29, which is somewhere around here is when Tales of the Legion stopped reprinting it. So then I did, and by then I was able to start picking up the real thing. So we've got Greg LaRocque, who would go on to do a lot of Wally West's Flash. Paul Levitt's classic DC writer. Got the whole thing versus Starfinger, who was a classic Legion villain, issue 29. We've got issue 32, part 1 of the Universo project. Steve Lytle doing covers. Good stuff. 33, continuing the Universo project. We've got a bunch of heroes from around the universe that weren't necessarily members of the Legion getting captured. This guy was always interesting. He's kind of missing part of his body there, and that's just how he walked around. I think it was just invisible. It wasn't that it wasn't there, it was just invisible. 33 through 36. Nice beauty cover there. Special election issue. The Legion would elect a new leader. And if I'm not mistaken, they would do it every quote-unquote every year. But, with the time crunch and everything, it really shouldn't have been a year because, not that many years really passed for them. But until, in terms of aging, other than there was one story that suggested that the Legionnaires don't really age at normal rates anymore. But anyway, So yeah, that's 36, and that's John Byrne doing that there cover. And we go to 37. So Legion of Superheroes had begun in a Superboy story. Superboy at the time being normal Superman, but back when he was a kid. And these heroes of the future come to the past to recruit Superboy to be a member of their super club. And this continued on. And eventually they became super popular and got, took over the book, and they split off and blah, blah, blah. So then Crisis on Infinite Earths comes along, and they redo the origin of Superman, and they eliminate the notion that he was ever a Superboy when he was a teen, that he just started his career as a Superman. So the Legion is, now that we're at the other side of the crisis, the Legion is finding out that there's some weirdness going on with history and the time stream, and they come back and they find themselves meeting Superboy. And what they will figure out, let's see. No, we gotta talk about it all before I go to the next story. What they will figure out is that the Time Trapper had captured a little snippet of time that was Smallville with Superboy, and that the whole time that the Legion thought that they were coming backwards in time to the main time, the main past, he was actually diverting them to this little pocket universe. And in that pocket universe is where they would interact with Superboy. So this was just kind of all an attempt to keep those stories alive. Unfortunately, they decide to kill off Superboy in this storyline. Then picking up the baton will be John Byrne over in the Superman books, and we will actually, I think, at the same time with this, I think, if I remember correctly. And the Pocket Universe is where the Lex Luthor will have turned good and will have built a kind of an artificial being that has a female form patterned after Lana Lang, and it has superpowers, and it becomes the new Supergirl in the regular continuity for a while. So the classic Pocket Universe saga right here. Issue 37, issue 40, we're back to fighting Starfinger again. Good old Starfinger. Sounds like a James Bond villain. Guess that was Goldfinger. I'm sure there's a connection there. 41. There. Legion in their later days. Costumes. Wildfire. Redesigned. 44. Had some new Legionnaires join, like Quizlet, who is an energy being from an energy-based planet, and so he has to ride around in this little ship and to interact with the physical world. He can leave it and then inhabit other machinery for a brief amount of time, and then he has to jump back into it. So we've got 45. Got a Lightning Lad focused anniversary issue fighting his older brother Mekit. Lightning Lord, the same powers. 48. These are Ken Stacy covers, by the way, and I wonder if it was Stacy, I don't know how well he pronounced it. And he was jump back to this one, a little easier to see. I mean, he was a really interesting talent. These painted covers, a little less detail, but I wonder whatever happened to Ken Stacy. But Got this one, 48. 49. Still fighting Starfinger. 52. Steve Lytle cover. Levitz, Giffen, DiCarlo. There, kind of a day in the life. One of the things that Legion was known for was just kind of taking some time to get into the personal lives of the characters. Everything wasn't always about just the latest fight. There was usually like one fight per issue, briefly at least, but then there would be a lot of people kind of sitting around talking about their relationships and things. 52. This was something that had started with Chris Claremont over on the X-Men. 53. There is an official language. You can probably online find it's Interlac is the name of it. Interlac. And they used it consistently in the Legion books. I'm sure there's somebody out there that can read Interlac without checking the translation. Got Block here on issue 56. Got 57. Got the Emerald Eye. If you watched my previous video, we know the Emerald Eye turns up a lot. Last two videos, really. There. And through 60. So we've got this Magic Wars, and the Magic Wars come along and are doing a lot of damage to various planets. And the thing is, the Legion, will come back. This version of the Legion is going to come back in a few different, in the future. And it seems like I've always had, my mental headcanon is that the Magic Wars is the point at which this timeline sort of diverges, and the ones that show up later show up because the costume, and maybe even earlier because the costumes are a little different, but this is a sort of creates a dystopian future aspect of their future that you don't really see when we come back and revisit this version. So it's at least as late as this, if not earlier. But that's issue 60. 61. Magic Wars Part 2. Basically all, this has been a fairly magic-based future. There is fairly science-based future with a little bit of magic sprinkling in, and basically magic is taking over. And issue 63, final issue, Magic Wars Part 4. So this ends this series, and then in a moment we'll look at the next series that picks up where this left off. But before we do that, we've got a couple of annuals. Now this is annual 3 because annuals 1 and 2 were reprinted in Tales of the Legion. So it wasn't until annual 3, if I was buying Tales of the Legion, that I needed to get, the original here. Annual 3 and annual 4. There. Part of the Starfinger thing that was going on. Alright, so then we get to the next series. Now, I don't want this to get confusing, so real quick, here is issue 1, and of the next, and this is after sort of everything has fallen apart, and most of the Legion has kind of given up, and they're not wearing their costumes anymore, which, by the way, made this extremely difficult to read for me, because as much as, I mean, I love Keith Giffen and all, but his work wasn't really detailed enough for me to be able to sort of feel comfortable recognizing the characters when they're not in costume. But this series is going to talk about, you know, that ugly post Magic Wars universe, which is also going to have some post-crisis stuff happen in it, and then eventually we're going to get to 0 Hour, and 0 Hour is going to completely reset the universe, you know, the timeline. So the 0 issue of this series is the introduction of, along with the Legionnaires series, is the introduction of the post 0 Hour version. But so I just wanted to show that real quick. But now let's go back to issue 1. We're in 1989, so we are, it's after the crisis, but not all the, other than getting rid of Superboy, they're just still kind of gradually making changes. We've got issue 4 with Mon-El, which, okay, so he's Mon-El, right? Well, the reason he's Mon-El is because he met Superboy on a Monday, and Superboy thought he was his brother, so they thought that why he was L. So why would he, if there's no Superboy, why would he be Mon-El? So he winds up going by his original name is Largand, and he becomes Valor, and he will actually have kind of have his own series. There's more than one version out there, but Valor is kind of the or there's another version that's Mon-El, like it's all one word with an apostrophe before the, you know, between the M and the O, which is like a Martian thing. So they had to dance around that whole thing for a bit. But anyway, issue 4, we'll call him Valor for now. If it comes up again, issue 5. Right there, we've got some time shenanigans going on. Issue 8. We've got the classics with the changes that have happened since the Magic Wars. Issue 9, we've got, so this is Laurel Gand. So Largand, Mon-El, or Valor, is, you know, he was born in the, you know, 21st century, and went into the, and still went into the Phantom Zone and came back out. I think we don't really kind of know the full story on that, but Laurel is just a straight up descendant of his, who comes from the same planet as him, Daxam. People from Daxam get Superman type powers, but instead of being vulnerable to kryptonite, which is relatively rare, they are vulnerable to lead, and so they have to take a serum to keep from being weakened. And basically, she's taking the place of Supergirl, who also had been kind of written out of the history. So there was just the loss of the notion that Superman was the last son of Krypton who only became Superman when he was an adult, just totally threw off Legion, and they just spent a bunch of time trying to fix things and dance around it. Issue 16, more Laurel Gand. trying to kind of combine the Laurel Kent and stuff. Issue 17 there through 24. So the Quiet Darkness was a sort of sequel to the Great Darkness, which was the classic Legion story from the previous series, wherein the Legion fought Galactus. There you go. So then we have, you know, our aged Legion, and then they find where there's this alien race called the Dominators, and the Dominators manage to kind of create these, there's some time elements to it, but clones of the Legion as they existed at a certain point in their history. And those clones are freed. So now we have two versions of the Legion. We have the old crusty ones who've been through so much, and we have these newer ones who are going to go on to be the stars of the Legionnaires book. There, 25 through 28. Little Sun Boy focus there. We've got 29 with Fire, excuse me, Fire Lad, Legion of Substitute Heroes. There. 36. Getting into some outside of the whole classic heroes thing. Let's see. 37. There. Nice set of legs there. Through 44. Princess Projectra returns. These are in, as I often say, these are in thick packs because these are dollar books, if not less. So there's not, you know, it's not hard to, most of them are not boarded, so therefore more of them can fit in one bag. 45, some new members. 52, Timberwolf, having some issues. Timberwolf had his own mini-series right around this time. Came to the present for a while. We'll see that eventually. '53. There. Through 56. Just remember, this was like they went in disguise. So this is Brainiac's disguise. Yeah. 57. And 60. So the end of an era was the arc that was going on in both Legionnaires and Legion of Superheroes, and it was basically the end of that timeline that had started in the original Superboy series. And 0 Hour was going to launch a totally new timeline for the Legion, and the first part of that was that Zero issue we looked at a second ago. And then, oh wait, sorry, well, we got one more issue right here with the Time Trapper again. 61. And then, yes, so now by the time we get to 68, yes, we're in that new version of the Legion that's never even thought about knowing a Superboy, if you will. Mark Waid writing. '69 dude, the Saturn girl on the cover. 76. '77. Brainiac 5, having some issues. We're now into this numbering period. As I mentioned when we were looking at Legionnaires, the storylines were bouncing back and forth. So, in order to know what order to read the stories in, you could check this number, similar to what the Superman books were doing at the time, at 77 through 84. There. We have 85. We've got a batch of Legionnaires that get stuck in the, in the 20th century. And I think at that point, even though the books are bouncing back and forth, I'd have to look at it again. I think, one book focused on the ones that were stuck in the present, and the other book focused on the ones that were still in the future. That's 85. I mean, that's what I would do. I mean, that's what makes sense. 92. There. 93. And issue 100. Those heroes that were lost find their way back home. Electric Superman is there to say goodbye. '101. So there had been a classic storyline where Lightning Lad had died, and somebody figured out that if they went to this planet and they a bunch of Legionnaires, put his body in the casket, and everybody held up the rods, that whoever's rod got struck by lightning would die, but it would revitalize Lightning Lad. And so there were 6 Legionnaires who volunteered, and it was very dramatic. And then one of them gets struck by lightning, and Lightning Lad is revived. But what we learn is that the number one, it wasn't really that Legion. I can't remember which one it was that died, but it wasn't really that Legionnaire. It was Proti, the protoplasmic pet of Chameleon Boy, had taken the place of that Legionnaire with his shape-shifting abilities. And B, Proti had replaced everybody else's rods with a rod that would, their rods would never, were not conductive or whatever. So he would definitely be the one that would cause that to happen. And so here we have sort of that same situation playing out again, but this time with Lightning Lass, or whatever they call it. The other one element of this version of the Legion is this is where they started getting rid of the kind of the kooky names So instead of, Lightning Lad, he's Live Wire, and instead of Shadow Lass, she's Umbra, and things like that. So I may call somebody by the wrong name when it matters, but that was what was going on there. 108, a little Revelation, Dark Circle. 109, some more Emerald Eye. Emerald Eye coming back again. It's like Joker to the Batman. 112. There. 113. 116. So there had been an annual for Power of Shazam that was set in a far, even far distant future relative to this, and it featured a new person, young lady, getting the powers of Shazam, and I guess they must have gotten some good feedback from that, because they brought that character into the Legion here, which Legion was really did not have a lot of legacy heroes. Most of its characters were up to this point, new ideas. So it was actually a little different to have a character who was a clear throwback to a 20th century hero. But that's 116. 117. Got Censor being captured. So the thing about Censor is, this is a character who in the old continuity had been a beautiful blonde, not silver, but platinum haired blonde, gorgeous girl, and acknowledging that they live in a future with lots of different kinds of life forms. They said, well, no, Censor in this, not Censor girl, but Censor in this world is going to be a serpentine type entity. 117. 120, some Phil Jimenez artwork there. Fatal 5, classic Legion villains. So getting an update on that. 121, more Phil Jimenez cover art. Got the Mon El character there. Because somewhere in here, I don't think maybe he never makes the cover, but Martian Manhunter also shows up. The notion being that Martians are just tremendously long-lived, and so he's still around, and he becomes a bit of an advisor to the Legion, and so he gets involved in giving this guy a name, because everybody back in the past, he had done a tremendously heroic and famous thing, and so here now he doesn't want everybody to realize that is him. He wants to try to live like a celebrity, not wanting to live a normal life. So he creates the Ma'an El identity, kind of like Hannah Montana, and to not get known for that. 125 is the final issue of this iteration of the Legion. They were around during the time when the DC 1 million series was going on. So you've got the idea of what would the heroes be like in the 853rd century. And then the series had some annuals. Got this one. This is Glorith. She's a sorceress. She's also very timey-wimey, and so she gets into it with the Time Trapper, because time is his thing as well. And at one point, they become kind of the same entity. Issue 1. Got issue 4. We've got Timberwolf. We've got this guy who is a 20th century surf skateboard enthusiast who gets bitten by the alien and then pulled into the future with Timberwolf, who had been visiting the 30th century. So Jam is a new hero that I don't think we've ever seen again. Jam. Issue 5. Elseworlds. Taking the regular characters and putting them in a completely different situation. There. Issue 7. Legends of the Dead Earth, where it's like way in the future. And I believe the insinuation of this story is because of his nature as a energy-based entity. Wildfire is still around at that point. Doesn't look too happy about it. Alright, so we're talking 96 or so. Kind of go, they give it a little rest for a while, and then in 05 we have a new Legion created by Mark Waid, Barry Kitson, more diverse, a little less like convenient, like, oh, how, everybody looks human, kind of convenient, a little more drama. And it starts off with a very youth versus age idea to it. So issue 1 through issue 5. One of the clever ideas I remember from this is, historically, Colossal Boy was a normal-sized human with the ability to turn into a giant. This Legion's Colossal Boy comes from a planet where everybody is a giant. He has gained the power to shrink down to 6 foot tall, so he is able to join the Legion based on his ability to ride in the spaceship with them and take part in adventures, as it were. 5. Issue 6, there's the new Colossal Boy. Issue 6, through issue 10. There, just lots of drama, interpersonal drama, one of the things that the Legion is known for. Issue 11. There. Then we get to issue 15, and there's some timey-wimey stuff. And the original Dawnstar and Block and Tyrock from the older series show up. This is right about the time where the 1 year later theme would hit, which is, so it's around the time of Infinite Crisis and 52 and the 1 year later stuff. So when in the next issue, issue 16, is Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes, where the Supergirl character of the time has been thrown into the future, and she is interacting with this Legion. And that runs for a while. And then at issue 37, it jumps back to this, to just being Legion of Superheroes. Supergirl has returned back to the 20th century, 21st at this point. So this series continues. Jim Shooter, classic Legion of Superheroes writer. He wrote the original Legion of Superheroes when he was 13 years old. He had gone on to become a big muckety-muck at Marvel, and so he came back to write Legion of Superheroes for a while here. Issue 37 through 44. There. Issue 45. There through issue 50. Can't remember if this is a wraparound cover or there's just two variants, but that's the final issue of that. So then the next time DC gives it a try is 2010. And Paul Levitz, another classic Legion of Superheroes writer, comes in, and he is, there had been over in the Superman books, the Superman and the Legion of Superheroes arc, where I mentioned earlier that we would see that original kind of the team that had rolled out of Superboy and the Legion again, and so this is that Legion without ever kind of how they would have progressed if they had never had like the Magic Wars and things had kind of gone to pot, and so they are kind of reforming and things are happening. Issue 1, there is a whole batch of sort of xenophobia going on Earth. A lot of Earthlings are not wanting aliens to be around, and it really never picks up exactly from any previous continuity, but they all certainly look a lot more like that older Legion, because there's a couple people who died or whatever that are still around here, but this looks like a lot more like your father's Legion of Superheroes. Got issue 9 there from that month when all of the DC books kind of did it like this, with the tiny writing and the big white thing. Issue 16, we have a death, a sacrifice, and then that series had an annual. There, more Emerald Eye, Emerald Empress. So then we get to 2011 and the New 52. New 52 starts off a brand new edition of the Legion, with lots of carryover, similar characteristics as the previous ones. That, by the way, they go after about a year, like all the series, they go into a they have a 0 issue. So, but that's the 0 issue, and then that's issue 1 through issue 8. There. And, you know, because it's the future, I think this was not terribly different from the previous series. It's almost, I think, maybe a continuation, arguably, because the changes in the present to the timeline to create the New 52 wouldn't, you know, change the future that much, or could be argued that it didn't necessarily. Issue 9 there. Through issue 16. Uh, 17 through 23. So then that is the final issue of the New 52 Legion of Superheroes. This was the series that also the New 52 Legion Lost series had spun out of. So then we go a few more years. I'm trying to see if the year is on here. Not really on here. But, and Brian Bendis comes to DC and introduces a bunch of new series and things, and one of them is a new version of the Legion, and brings in it to it, you know, a lot more diversity and things like that, which is cool. And John Kent, the son of Superman, gets involved, and it's a little like they're kind of acknowledging, I'd have to go back and look at it again, but it's like they're acknowledging the fact that there are different timelines and you can have more than one Legion, because I want to say it's like Superman had his Legion, and then John Kent has his Legion, and they're similar, but that they coexist. That's issue 1 through issue 6. There's a little bit more legacy, so think concepts that could continue into the 31st century, like a Dr. Fate and a Lantern, are included. Sorry, the room is small and I'm trying to kind of work around some stuff. Issue 7 there. They're not exactly on the best terms with the rest of the United Planets. Bendis, Byrne, Sook. A lot of artists, a lot going on there. And issue 12 is the final issue of that edition of the Legion of Superheroes. There was a one-shot, Legion of Superheroes Bugs Bunny, where the various DC heroes were teaming up with Looney Tunes characters there. This covers a throwback homage to Superboy's, the first appearance of the Legion in Superboy. So Superboy was in the hot seat being judged by the Legion. We've got Legion of Superheroes Millennium, part of that Bendis resurgence. The idea, this is kind of weird. So the idea is that so he brings back this character called Rose and the Thorn, and Rose and the Thorn was traditionally a woman with dual personality, during the day, she was a very timid woman named Rose Forrest, and at night she would become a fierce vigilante named the Thorn, and she wouldn't remember, you know, what happened when she was the Thorn and stuff like that. So Bendis says, okay, well, that's cool. Well, she's also immortal, and so she lives till the 31st century and is helpful in creating this legion of superheroes for that century. That's issue 2 of that. There. We've got Legion of Superheroes Secret Files and Origins with just more backstory on that sort of post-Zero Hour version of the Legion. Issue 1. Actually, this is probably that post-Crisis, pre-Zero Hour version, and then this is probably the post-Zero Hour version. There are other people who are better at kind of eyeballing that, but I know Mon-El in that suit, that's post-Zero Hour, some things like that. Then during that series that was being written by Paul Levitz, there was a one-shot, just straight up Legion of Supervillains right there. Then we take a moment to jump back to Marvel. Legion of X, a miniseries set during the Krakoa period. I honestly don't remember what went on during it. It's Simon Spurrier, though, which means I probably didn't understand what was going on at the time when it was being written. We got Legion. Legion. Oh, there you go. That continues into issue 6. Continues into the Judgment Day when the Avengers, the X-Men, and the Eternals have to all team up. Go. And finishing up with issue 10 right there. We've got Legion, Science Police. So basically the police on Earth in the Legion of Superheroes are called the Science Police for some reason, and so they get a little mini-series here, with a story entirely revolving around the Science Police. Issues 1 through 4 right there. Not sure whose idea that was. Got Legion Secret Files. So this is not Legion of Superheroes Secret Files. This is just Legion Secret Files. This would have come out back when the series was just called Legion. Right there. But I'm Mr. Strict on alphabetizing. We've got Legion Secret Origin from the Paul Levitz series, just telling a little refreshened version of the secret origin of several of the members. Issue 1 through issue 6. Or actually the origin of the Legion itself. Legion Worlds. I believe this was during that, when it was just called Legion, period, because it's being written by Abnett and Lanning. And this was just kind of a picking one Legion planet, home planet at a time, and talking about setting an adventure there. So issue 1 is Earth, through issue 6 is Rimbor, home of Timberwolf. There. I picked this up in a $1 box at some point. Lensman. This is a Japanimation anime adaptation, and it's arguably the because I think it actually goes way back. Arguably, a Green Lantern could be said to be a kind of a ripoff of Lensman. You also often hear people mention that. Then back from that period of time when you had Techno Comics, as well as some others who would get the greats of science fiction, both writers and actors and whatnot, to jot an idea down on a napkin, and then they would go in and fill it out and throw that person's name on the top. So Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock from OG Star Trek, has, with concepts by Isaac Asimov. So mixing those two together and creates this story of aliens coming to invade the Earth, and some are good, some are bad. It's kind of like Transformers, if I remember correctly. Issue 4. Very much $1 box stuff. Issue 5. Issue 6. But hey, they were going all in, because it even had a spin-off called Leonard Nimoy's Primordial's Origins, with a cover by Arthur Adams. Right there. Issue 1 through issue 2. Leonard Nimoy plots it. Okay, I was being a little sarcastic about the involvement of the person, but if he actually plotted it, all right, well, he was maybe a little more involved than the average. But anyway, that is all for this box. Okay, so now that we're done with the Legion, we've got a bunch more L stuff. It's all kinds of stuff. We've got Lobo, we've got Lockjaw, we've got Logan's Run, we've got Longshot, we got Luke Cage, and then we'll get into the M's with some Machine Man, some Magneto. So I hope you'll be here to look at all that next time. I'm so glad you were here for this one, and hey, have a great day.